his impeachments before the August recess. First of all, not a thing. Can't do it.
Doesn't have the votes.
Right. I mean, it is just extraordinary the way this party has lost its way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a thing. He doesn't have the votes. There really is no mechanism to expunge an impeachment. But Kevin McCarthy is a Donald Trump bootlicker, and he has proven that over and over again. Well, I wish these guys would have an allegiance to the rule of law and to ethics in government the way they have an allegiance to Donald Trump. It would be a much better place.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, I mean, I don't know the timing, but I feel like it actually could be as early as today, which is why I have my Justice T-shirt on for you. It's Travis's last day. He would like a lovely parting gift. What do you make of it? Because obviously the time frame, the 4 days, he was given to testify to the grand jury, which he's not going to do because he's the biggest liar in the history of the world. But where are we on the January 6th prosecution, do you think?
Yeah, it does feel like a good day for a little bit of justice, but I don't expect we're going to see an indictment today. One of the data points we can look to is Donald Trump got a target letter in the documents obstruction and espionage case down in Florida. And then I think it was a couple of weeks thereafter that he was indicted. So, there is no hard and fast rule. It could be today. It could be next week. Frankly, it could be a month down the road. But the really good news, Steph, is that a target letter delivered to a former president of the United States is a concrete sign that he will be indicted for crimes on and around January 6th. About that, there can be no reasonable dispute. So that was historic, the delivery of that target letter to Donald Trump.
Obviously, the other big news is what you've been telling us is going to happen forever, Glenn, is that Fulton County prosecutors are preparing racketeering charges, is what the reporting is this morning. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, RICO charges, it's not rocket science. I've prosecuted RICO cases federally in D.C., and the state RICO laws are not all that different. They basically require that you prove that there's an enterprise. It's a fancy word for a group of people who got together and tried to do wrong, tried to commit crime. Yeah. And then you only need to prove what's called a pattern of racketeering activity. That involves crimes that you have to prove to support the notion that this crew, this gang, this enterprise was trying to do wrong. But the nice thing is a pattern is defined in the law as two. You just have to prove two racketeering crimes, or what we call rack acts. When I say it's not rocket science to put a case like this together, it's not that hard. It's not that much. It's not that different from our usual conspiracy investigations and prosecutions. But if it is rocket science, then Fani Willis is a rocket scientist because she is determined to get after it. And I was thrilled to see The Guardian reporting this morning that racketeering charges are coming in Georgia.
And obviously, I mean, I'm not sure all of the exact legal terms, but the call to Raffensperger, and then also it was breaking into the offices and stealing actual voting equipment too. It would be is what is being speculated, right, as part of the charges.
Yeah, and don't forget, it was two of his criminal associates, Donald Trump's criminal associates, Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, who went to Georgia and lied to state legislators. They were offering these debunked election fraud theories in furtherance of what? Their common plan or scheme to try to steal the Georgia election. This is going to be an indictment, Steph, I will predict, unlike anything we have seen, because it will be a speaking indictment. But just as some of the indictments in the RICO cases I prosecuted went on for 100 pages and had dozens and dozens and dozens of criminal counts in them, that is what I think we're going to see down in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably going to sort of knock the wind out of us in a way that the federal indictments didn't.
Wow. So just talking about the target letter, because you're always so good at explaining to us non-lawyers, a target is a person for whom prosecutors have substantial evidence linking them to commission of a crime, and two, a person prosecutors view as a putative defendant, translation, a person prosecutors intend to indict. And so you were saying the time frame, it's just hard to tell. What are the factors that go into what the time frame is between the target letter and the actual indictment?
There are really only two factors. One is there enough evidence to convince prosecutors that they have a reasonable likelihood of success on the merits? That comes right out of the same U.S. Attorney's Manual that you just quoted. I think you were reading one of my tweets. But
Yeah.
so that was the precise federal Department of Justice definition of a target that you just read. And in order to bring a case to fruition, to seek an indictment, you have to have a reasonable likelihood of success on the merits. In other words, you have to satisfy yourself that you can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Not that it's bulletproof, not that it's a sure thing, but as a prosecutor, you have to feel that you have the quantity and quality of evidence that can persuade a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. The second factor, Steph, is public safety. You know, sometimes we have enough evidence to indict, but we don't. We investigate more and more and more and more because we want to build the perfect beast. Prosecutors sometimes investigate too long and don't indict early enough. That was my experience.
Yeah.
But when public safety hangs in the balance, the moment you have enough to indict, you need to indict. Public safety has been hanging and hanging and hanging in the balance for a very long time when it comes to Donald Trump. And that's why I hope we see an indictment soon for January 6th. And I hope we hear Jack Smith's team say, Judge, we'd like to talk about the possibility of detaining Donald Trump pending trial.
You already answered the question I just had next. When you tweeted, when you look at others who are detained pending trial, while Trump not only remains on release pending trial, but continues to say and post things that are designed and intended to inspire his supporters to violence, it highlights the persistent injustice at play in our system. And on cue, he really, there's this ad he released, and this he said on, I guess, a radio show. I think it's a very dangerous thing to even talk about him going to jail, because we do have a tremendously passionate group of voters, much more passion than they had in 2020 and much more passion than they had in 2016. I think it would be very dangerous. Fill in, violent for passionate. Yeah. I mean, and the fact that
Steph,
part of inciting violence is one of the things he's being charged with, likely, right? And that he is continuing to do it. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
He is the most dangerous person to our democracy as exists in our nation at this moment. The standard to detain somebody pending trial is if the judge believes there's clear and convincing evidence that the defendant either represents a flight risk, such that if he is released pending trial, he will flee, or if he is a danger to the community, he can and should be detained pending trial. I don't believe you can make a reasonable argument that Donald Trump does not represent a danger to the community, to our country, to our democracy. He does. He's proved it over and over again. And it will be a significant failing and an injustice if the prosecutors don't seek to have him detained pending trial. Look at the 21-year-old National Guardsman, Jack Teixeira, who compromised classified information. Where is he? He's in jail pending trial. What Donald Trump did damaged our national security to the millionth power, more than what Jack Teixeira did. He should also be detained pending trial.
Glenn, speaking of documents, you said Judge Cannon sets no trial date thus far in Trump's documents, obstruction espionage trial. What trial date might she land on is your question. Do you have an answer?
My answer is March. Why do I say March? First of all, the prosecutors have steadfastly asked for a December 2023 trial date, and they've laid out the reasons why they've made that request and why it is imminently doable. The judge seems skeptical. She feels like that's a little too fast. And of course, Donald Trump's team said, we want no trial date at all, but if you have to set one, set it after the presidential election in 2024. I have something to say about that in a minute, but I think she's going to settle on March. Why do I predict March? March is 8 months from today, Steph. That gives the defense team 8 months to prepare for trial. March is 8 months in advance of the presidential election, which means Donald Trump's trial will be long over, months and months and months before the election. That way, the American people will know whether they're casting their vote for a convicted felon or somebody who was completely exonerated at his trial. I think the American voters should know that. And with respect to Donald Trump's incessant claim that prosecuting him represents election interference, that's his new favorite mantra. It has supplanted witch hunt at the moment. The prosecutors have never said one thing that indicated they wanted to go to trial in December for political reasons. They base it on the evidence, right?
Yeah.
How long the trial will take. The Donald Trump's defense team went into court and expressly told the judge, we want you to tie the trial date to the political calendar. We want you to do it after an election. You know what that is? That's kind of political interference.
Yeah.
That's, using politics to determine when somebody should go to trial.
Yeah.
So projection, Donald Trump is doing exactly what he accuses the Department of Justice of doing.
And if you're innocent, you want a speedy trial to exonerate yourself. That'd be the best campaign ad ever, wouldn't it? I want to get your take, one last one. Adam Schiff yesterday on the J6 thing.
Well, I think certainly the former president's involvement in inciting that attack on the Capitol, a powerful evidence such as on January 6th, when he's told that there's a problem at the metal detectors, but it's not the usual problem. The problem on January 6th wasn't that there were long lines at the metal detectors. It was that there were practically no lines because people wouldn't go through them because they didn't want their weapons taken away. And what is Donald Trump's response? Then take down the effing mags. They're not here to hurt him.
Hang on. Breaking news. Federal judge ordered the trial in Trump's classified documents case begin in mid-May 2024.
Oh, that's too late. It's not too late, but it's later than she should have said it.
Yeah. It broke just.
I literally was just holding my hand to tell you I saw it.
We were talking.
I was off by 2 months, Steph.
Yeah.
But, here's the good news. All right, let's look for the silver lining because it's usually there. May, it's a trial that will last a couple of months. Where does that take us? May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 4 months in advance of the election, still more than enough time to get him convicted before the 2024 election.
Yep. Real quick, so your take on Adam Schiff, because you just heard Kevin McCarthy. We played the sound a little while ago of him saying, I don't see how he could be found criminally responsible. He said peacefully protest. They're hinging it on the one time he said peaceably against all this evidence about take away the effing mags and they're not here to hurt me and blah, blah, blah. Just give us your take on that, on the likelihood of incitement of violence.
Yeah, he said, go to the Capitol, fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. Take down the metal detectors so they can remain armed while they're doing it. Now go down there and stop. That's an action word. Stop the steal. Stop the certification, but do it peacefully. That's I'm trying not to cuss, Steph.
Okay, thank you.
That is horse nonsense.
I can't lose my mom, Travis, and my FCC license in 1 week, Glenn Kirschner.
Yeah. No, you know what? Let me make that argument in court to rebut Kevin McCarthy's nonsense that when you say go down there and beat the living you-know-what out of somebody, but do it peacefully.
They got to play Kevin McCarthy's statement on the floor of the House anytime they ask him a question. What changed from when you said the exact opposite? Just pathetic. Glenn, thank you, honey. Doing double duty this week for us. We appreciate it. I needed you.
Thank you. And best wishes to Travis. We are going to miss him like all get out.
Thanks, Glenn. And you have not seen the last of me. I promise.
Good. I'm glad.
All right. That's a threat and a promise. Love you, Glenn. Mwah.
Love you, Steph.
You will see
guys.
Glenn at
Thanks,
Sexy
Glenn.
Liberal LA, October 21st. I feel like there could be a reunion with Adam Schiff. Let's just see what happens.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. There it is, my first drink of the day, Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic. Many of you know my story. I stopped drinking wine for 3 years during COVID, during the lockdown as part of a health reset. Now I drink wine in moderation, but this is an amazing new product. I've always believed in probiotics. And Z-Biotics, check this out. You drink just one of these. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. I am using this and I feel great in the morning. I don't have to worry if I have an extra glass of wine. I still feel great in the morning. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. I've always had acid reflux problems. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. All I know is it works. It is ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic. Go to zbiotics.com/politicalvoices or scan the QR code on the screen right now.